Alright, guys. Alright. Everybody, alright. Alright, enough noise for now. I got it out. Firstly, disclaimer, don't try this at home or in your car. I've been driving for a long time, and not to mean that this is the safest practice, but I'm going to do my best to not make too much eye contact with you, so I trust that that'll be okay with you for the safety of everyone. And we're going to have some fun communication about the idea of where do dogs come from. And to start that out, I want to give a shout out to my friend JP, whose house we just left to bring Oriah back to my family's home in Georgia, because we have an awesome pool. We're going to trade the cars out. If you've been following most of the steps along the way, you've probably heard about the car confusion that we had, and if you want to know more about what I'm talking about, check out the video, Is It Illegal to Be Homeless? But long story short, we're going to bring Oriah back, get her in the pool. We're teaching her how to skate, surf, be awesome, be the best dog that she can be. And when I was mentioning JP, JP loves to talk about a dog being God backwards. So I figured we'd throw it out there to have some open communication for anyone that's listening that would love to give some feedback. If someone wants to do a Google research, if someone wants to look within, if someone wants to guess or explore and evolve out loud with us, feel free to pitch in. If the audio quality is good enough, we might even turn this into a podcast. But we'll start off with that question, and having the expert dog trainer here. Do you have an alias yet?
An alias?
Yeah.
I mean, I go by Dylan the dog trainer. That's what most people know me by at this point.
Dylan the dog trainer. Since we have Dylan the dog trainer, we're blessed enough to have him here with us on this car ride. I would love to know, do you have anything that comes up for you when you think about where do dogs come from? And before I give him the reins on answering to that question, as you as well. Hey, Deanna. I miss you. See you soon. Think about this. I've been reading this book called Sapiens. Thank you, Tyson. I think it's from a guy named Yuval Harris, something like that. Yuval, I think is his first name. Fascinating so far. And thank you, Tyson Wagner, who's actually one of the logistic managers of International Track Design, for recommending it. And it's bringing up some really cool concepts. It's like a brief history of mankind. And they're making the point that potentially that a lot of people think that we domesticated wheat, for instance. However, if you look at wheat as an entity or as a spirit, a plant spirit, it would almost seem as if wheat domesticated humans. So it's something to consider. There's an awesome documentary on this idea called The Botany of Desire. I think Michael Pollan narrates it. He has lots of awesome books on the concept as well as that maybe we're less in control of the plants and animals than we think we are. And if you look at it straight up from the ability of the genes to replicate and duplicate and spread themselves around the world, you might start to think that wheat has domesticated humans rather than the other way around. So I would like to bring up that same point to you, Dylan. Are dogs domesticating us, and where do they come from? Well, not that you're going to have a clear answer.
No, I mean, there is no clear answer, so I'll start you guys off with that. But to touch on the point that you just said, which is, did wheat domesticate us or did we domesticate wheat? It's similar to, does your routine control you or do you control your routine? Do you have to drink a coffee every single morning or can you take a day off? And, wheat is I think, kind of touching on that same thing of a lot of people, whether it's beer, whether it's bread, wheat is a essential part of our life. So it's interesting.
And wheat also is one of the main crops, I think, that catalyzed us from what history shows and all the research that's been done has catalyzed us from going from a hunter-gatherer, nomadic, tribal type of reality more to a domesticated agriculture, thinking that your home is a box and like plotting and plowing and working. Actually, from my understanding, before agriculture, the person that worked in the farms and the wheat were most likely peasants. For when kingdoms started arising, that was more like a peasant backbreaking job. However, now it's like almost it's almost to have a home and a garden and to be staying in one spot and to have your routine and to think that you own that home and trim it up and perfect it rather than the whole world is your home. That's almost like the new American dream, or the new meme, or the new shared belief, the new shared subjective thoughts, rather than the objective one that potentially your home is wherever you're at and you're living where you're at. What's Deanna pitching into our
Deanna's, I had a dream they were aliens. Your reception may be bad. It's really choppy.
Oh, thank you for the hearts up, Deanna. So yeah, we'll cruise on. I mean, I'm not sure how bad the reception is. Is it giving us any low signals?
I'm not getting any low signal. Anybody else who's watching, can you guys give us a thumbs up, or can you guys say hello, or let us know what the quality is? Can you hear me speaking clearly? If so, we'd love to continue our talk about dogs and where they came from. We're back.
Yeah, we're not sure if you're hearing this, but if you are, maybe we'll see if we can scratch the surface of one of your questions with a fun answer out loud. And I'm not sure if anything, Dylan, you wanted to speak on anything that we brought up yet before I bring up the next topic.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, I guess, captivating. If you guys want to take a second and think about where the first dog was domesticated. You know, myself as a dog trainer, I find myself to focus on natural and primitive styles of training to have massive respect for the origin of the wolf. But at the same time, when you think about the history of the evolution to a domesticated animal, to have the, you know, over 300 types of breeds that we have, to the point where we have 1.5 million dogs getting rescued every year of all different breeds, take a moment and have some appreciation for where they all came from. You know, it all started with, you know, the gray wolf and the wolf. So, you know, I think having some appreciation and some respect for, you know, the evolution of the entire species. And that's why I love working with huskies and shepherds and wolves. And yeah, I mean, take a second in Google and try to check it out. It's definitely interesting.
And also, prior to the agriculture revolution, I also think that people were not under the belief that everyone is created equally. And even for a while, that when agriculture first came along, that was obviously not the truth. I think the part of the book that really fascinated me today, and someone maybe can give me the name of the Babylonian king who came up with, I think it was 1776 BC, it was like the law that was given to him by God from his perspective, and it was very much so based on not everyone being created equally. There was very much a system of superiority. I think there was actually 3 different classes of people, and there was 2 different sexes, and they were not all created equally. And it was more of the an eye for a woman was the results would be much different than if you took an eye from a man, or let me put it this way: if you took an eye from a slave, then your repercussions would be much less if you took an eye from a superior class. And then in 1776, with the Constitution, you know, it's pretty interesting timing there, AD, that's when we were under the idea that all men are created equally. And I would happens there. Somehow, I'm surprised they allowed me to receive phone calls, but from a biological perspective, that's the amazing part is that we're not all created equally, that we all share different gifts, and that we're all amazing in unique ways, and that maybe we're all, you can look at us all as one, or you can look at us all as individuals, you can all look at us as cells of the same body. But these are all big topics that will probably warrant a lot of consideration. And what I wanted to talk about today was considering, hey Jeff, let me know if you can hear us, or if our reception is choppy like Princess Deanna was alluding to. Because if it's good, if it's smooth, maybe we'll keep on cruising through this communication. But basically the wolf, from your perspective, and you've worked with wolves before, Dylan, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
What do you think, and let's pretend we're in a wolf pack, there's obviously a system of superiority, correct? There's an alpha male.
Yeah, I mean, there's an alpha male, there's, you know, as some people like to say, the pack leader, and you'll see a dynamic within every pack. One of my personal dogs is a dominant submissive. female dog who's the pack leader, and she helps socialize everybody in the pack. So there is a dynamic within a pack the same way there's a dynamic within a group of friends where you'll see there's one who usually leads the group and talks more and, you know, says, hey, we're going to go here tonight. And then there's, you know, other people who might, you know, be more of the followers within that group. But what I want to touch on real fast is the concept of domesticating humans and dogs. I think it might have happened around the same time, and you bring up a great point with saying wheat is you know, something that might have played into the domestication of humans. But if you think about humans and dogs at the hunter-gatherer state of mind, and then you know, incorporate this concept of growing plants and wheat, I think that's when the wolves might have started to become curious and started to becoming reliant on the human for food, and they would start to get fed by the humans, and that relationship of the humans, you know, kind of using wheat to kind of lean away from being a hunter-gatherer, as well as the dogs becoming dependent on the humans.
What's that person say? I'm going to.
I'm getting a clear reception.
Awesome,
I love it.
Awesome.
So I think both of them played into the domestication of each other. I think wheat might have been the catalyst for the opportunity for dogs to become dependent on man for food, and for humans to evolve and domesticate themselves from hunter-gatherer state of mind. And I think maybe that's when we start to see the wolf become more friendly, more dependent on the human, and become the man's best friend that we know and love. And then, you know, obviously, you know, what we read is it's been a 80,000 or 800,000 year journey of evolution to get to the domesticated dog we have today, like the golden retriever. So, you know, over that amount of time, I think, yeah, I mean, we might have been the catalyst for why we're all domesticated and we have the partnership with dogs the way we do.
Yeah, and long story short, it's been a long story, according to the history that we know of. And we is what basically, if I'm going to be honest, what other people have told me or I've read. I'm imagining that the sources are credible. It seems to make logical sense, but it could have been over a long time span with lots of genetic mutations, lots of maybe feeding wolves, taking them to other parts of the world, maybe them all of a sudden becoming intertwined and codependent with the human pack that they're traveling with, and then breeding in and out specific qualities that they would think would be best, maybe ridding or getting rid of the wolves that were too hard to control, maybe keeping the ones that were more submissive, maybe keeping the ones that had specific traits that were advantageous to humans. And then, long story short, how many breeds do we have now? You said we have about 300.
I mean, I'd say over 300 breeds, not including just mixes.
So who knows how Noah's Ark and all the different shared beliefs fits into this. However, what I'm curious about in this communication, especially because between the both of us, it seems like we have a pretty fun and good grasp and awesome perspectives on the different psyches of dogs and humans and how they're intertwined. And I'm curious, maybe from your perspective, like a typical puppy energy in a dog, and maybe we can talk about how that shows up in humans, and then typical alpha energy or leader energy and how that shows up in dogs, and how that also carries over to humans.
Yeah, well, the one thing that we've kind of noticed is, even though this puppy is sleeping so cute, but even though this puppy is super adorable and only 13 weeks old, we still see that it gets mouthy, that it can't help but be a primitive, primal dog with those urges when it gets overexcited, and when a dog doesn't know what to do with that energy, that excitement that we have as children or puppies. You know, I mean, it's a catalyst for growth. It's a catalyst to learn, and you know, that's why we're working through the distractions. We're working through the fear. That's why we're driving to Georgia right now to have even more of an in-depth, you know, experience with this dog, because they have to go through that to become domesticated, because they are still primitive at heart. And that's what most people don't realize, is even though, again, this puppy, you might think you buy it, you rescue it, it's good to go. they need training, they need guidance, and that's why we see that 1.5 million dogs get rescued, half of them get returned, 96% of rescue dogs don't get trained. So we, if that's the concept, most people think that a dog at this point is domesticated, but from what you've seen, have you seen your puppy become primal and show some mouthiness and kind of be almost like a wolf-like, embody the wolf, would you say sometimes?
Yeah, I understand that humans, for myself, especially in the past, love categories. It seems like in order for us to flow through this experience of life a bit easier and more organic, it's nice to be able to throw things into categories very quickly and not think too much about them. So it's cool to think that, yeah, like I'm domesticating and training my puppy. However, I see it as very much a two-way street, and that I'm getting trained and I'm learning more about energy, and maybe the dogs are domesticating us, like we maybe is domesticating us. And what I love about dogs, and I know since I'm not sure if Deanna's still with us, but it's a conversation that we've had plenty of times about when you have sexual attraction and chemistry between two humans. I do think there's different levels of maturity on how to interact with that chemistry, and I think the wolf, potentially the alpha male wolf pack leader, embodies the mature masculinity, or if it's a female, the mature feminine. And whereas a little puppy is what a lot of humans, and even myself, I've slipped into it in the past and recently, where it's just like so overly excited and leaking energy everywhere and doesn't know what to do with itself. It's almost like not breathing. Can you imagine a puppy versus kind of like the idea of that carrying over into the bedroom or carrying over into the dating scene? And I tend to think that neediness kills most deals, and that's in the dating and relationship game as well. And that's something I thought was really fascinating, how you were saying about the puppy, that a lot of puppies' natural tendencies at first is like run around everywhere. And I'm imagining if they were in a wolf pack, the leader would be able to put the puppy in line and be like, look, that's not the best, however this was communicated, I imagine it would be like, that's not the best way to get the most love and affection.
And I mean,
there's a better way, and I would like to hear about your way of doing that at the farmer's market the other day.
Yeah, and it's similar. So the way that, if you watched in one of our previous videos how we picked Oriah up from the back of the fat of the neck, that's what you would see if you had a pack of wolves, even a pack of lions, whatever it is. When their young get out of line, they will correct them naturally, and they'll walk over, they'll pick them up by the neck, and they'll bring them back to the pack to lay down and learn what they need to do. And you have to, I mean, it's instinctual to put the, I guess, experience, I guess, not so much in the forefront, and let the mother, the father, whoever's trying to take care of, that's also part of the training. You can't necessarily always let the dog run around. It'll get hurt, right? If your kid's running into the middle of the road, there are cars coming, you tell them to stop and look both ways. And I think it's very similar. You don't want your puppy to just run around and be crazy. That puppy energy needs to be harnessed, and it almost is like a young person at getting a little bit too drunk, who's just trying to have a good time and is just giving it up. Like, it shouldn't be it shouldn't just be about your energy. You should have to, that neediness for attention. A lot of dogs want to jump on each other and lick. A lot of obsessive behaviors. They lick each other in the face. They, do all sorts of stuff. But
I almost imagine like someone going around in like a nightclub, shining like a flashlight or their energy, like, oh God, look at me, it's so cool I am. Let me talk to you. Let me talk to that. Let me talk to this. Blah 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 blah. And all of a sudden, all their neediness is pushing people away. It's like a leaked form of immature masculine energy, aka puppy energy, potentially. Whereas the opposite could be true, maybe of a lighthouse that stands high on the hilltop, perched where everyone can see it, and it just does its thing. It harnesses its light. It uses it to its advantage. It's able to light up the whole room, the whole world, without even moving, without even being desperate. And therefore, if you're that person at the club or the church or the grocery store or wherever you're at, all of a sudden attraction from the opposite sex and the same sex, and that is inevitable. People desire to be in the presence of someone that's able to breathe fully out, breathe fully in, stand there with its own energy and not have to leak it, but can have it basically harnessed and ready to transmute in the most advantageous way possible. And I imagine that's what alpha wolf pack leaders are helping the puppies understand and the betas understand, and I imagine that's also what shows up on the human scale quite a bit.
Similar to when we went to the park, and the first thing that Oriah did was, she wanted to, run up and be excited that I'm at the market, and she didn't get as much affection as when she was the lighthouse, and she chose to sit and just stay in one place, and everybody kept looking and coming up and appreciating her. So when you are the embodiment of the lighthouse and you're able to just stand still, and do what you're doing and not need the affection, to not need the attention, you just are being, you'll receive rather than, that neediness. And that's what we saw with Oriah.
That's what we call unavoidable success.
Unavoidable success.
Yes, sir. It's like, can you be with yourself? Can you love every part of yourself? And can you breathe into and enjoy it? And breathe it out and breathe it in, baby. So yeah, that's something I wanted to talk about, the difference between wolves, puppies, dog, God. Where do they all come from? Maybe the answer is in the question. Maybe the answer is in the exploration of that. Maybe that's where the real insights and intuition is downloaded, rather than gripping or grasping or desperately needing a 100% clear and concise answer that you believe so strongly that you're willing to give them others that don't believe the same as you.
You said something yesterday when somebody said it's just social grouping, and you said it's never just, right? What's just? And that kind of, stuck with me a little bit. And it's, it's not just dog training. You're not just training your dog. It is an experience, right? I'm learning, from the experience. The dog is learning from the experience. It's a two-way street. And that really, was profound. Nothing's just. So when you are working with your animal, be in the moment, enjoy the experience, and go along with it. See what happens. Don't be afraid to work through the fears, the distractions, the triggers that your dog has that you may have. You might
actually not even be not afraid of them, but actually pursue them potentially.
Yeah, pursue them.
Pursue your triggers to find out that your elevations. Feature your flaws to find out that they might be your features. These are all good points that, and it's amen to. Just is such a word that is usually a diluter. It waters down what's happening, and I guess the best way I could ever think of using it just is right before the phrase "do it."
Love it.
Congratulations to Nike. Maybe that's where one of the most successful businesses were ever birthed from, because there are words that I believe have been littered into the English language and maybe other languages as well that make it easier to domesticate humans and keep that 2 to 98% ratio, the 2% controlling the 98%. I do believe another awesome point, and I'm not sure if I ever read this right, but with that book, he's alluding to the idea that maybe when agriculture happened, the 2% of the earth became the world of humans. Whereas before it was 100% of the earth was the world for humans. Everything was open to explore if we could figure out a way, That's not to say that we're naturally meant to go swim through glaciers for an hour, but maybe there's a way to do it with emerging technology, and maybe jumping in glacier water might be one of the healthiest things in the world to do. So it's interesting. I know the language and linguistics, I imagine that's something I'm going to get more into, but I do think it's used in a lot of ways to control people into believing the shared subjective myths that help the top-notch stay at the top notch, and I think just is one of those words. So if you are going to use that word, make sure you're using it and not being used by it.
Preach. That is very, very true. A lot of people have, myself included, I had self-limiting beliefs because you want to be domesticated. I find I allowed myself to be complacent in a mediocrity of thinking that there's only one level to life, and allowing myself to open the door has led me to South Carolina to train this puppy, and now we're headed to Georgia. So experience every moment. Don't let your fears stop you from living your life to the fullest. And if you have a dog, if you're the type of person that wants to make an excuse, just follow Daniel Eisenman. He's taking his dog everywhere with him, proving, you know, the concept, the excuse is wrong, that you can take your dog everywhere with you. You can travel the world. You can be a happy, you know, puppy-spirited person and make the most of every single day with a dog. And, you know, between surfing and longboarding and going for walks and car rides and to the market, you know, we go out to dinner and eat with this dog. This puppy goes everywhere with us. So it's not a hindrance to our lifestyle. It allows more opportunities. We've met more people. We've seen more things. We've met more dogs. So, I mean, use it as an opportunity to open a door, open a window. Don't let it be a limitation for your lifestyle.
Yeah, and I would say finally that you can argue for your limitations and you can believe that you can't do things, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. And I'm feeling good with this. I've had weak connection as I've allowed myself to be a bit insecure.
Any questions before we guys get off? I do appreciate everybody checking us out as we take this safe trip to Georgia. Thanks, Jonathan, Chris, Jeff, Diana, everyone else who watched. Again, 1.5 million dogs get rescued, guys. Over half get returned. So it's important that you get your dog trained. Seek the knowledge. If you guys need any help, I'll be flying around, driving around, helping people all throughout the United States. So contact me, wearedogtraining.com. I'd love to help you guys. We use a no painful style of training, all natural. You know, really embody the wolf as you could, and you respect the evolution of where your dog came from. So thank you guys for your time. We're tuning out. Peace.